how crazy is it that if he just got up and made it to camp, how much his career could be a lot different than it was? I know, one mistake and that's your first impression is bad, but imagine he just showed up on time. His career he might be playing with the Islanders. We weren't even having this conversation.
Yeah, there's also a few other missteps from there, right? Like can't skate in a straight line is something Brent Thompson said like a year after that, which isn't necessarily true. It's just it means he dawdles with the puck a little bit too much, which is true. He said a few things about the team, right? Like he's thrown the Islanders under the bus, like they can't play defense, but I'm the problem. And he's not wrong, but like if you're looking for a job in the organization, maybe don't throw them under the bus.
Yeah. No, I mean it's what you said though was definitely right. When he touches the puck, everybody watches. When he first came up, I remember it was must-watch hockey. He was going to do some crazy thing, and then Barzal came. And while Barzal had a mistake when he played the puck in the penalty box, which put a sour taste in fans' mouths, quickly he passed Ho-Sang in the depth charts. Everyone said Barzal is just a better Ho-Sang, and Ho-Sang got masked. But I like what you said about that too, though. He is dynamic when he has the puck. The things that he can do, not many people can do. And if he could help this club, I'm all for it. He just has to, make the most of his chance.
Which is why he went in the first round, right? Like he's a supremely skilled forward, very highly skilled. He just has, for lack of a better term, an attitude problem. And it's not that he has a bad attitude. It's just he sees things a certain way, and he's not necessarily wrong. And it's convincing him to not do those things or convincing him to see things your way, which is a problem that the Islanders have. They haven't been able to have this like take that tight and be like, yes, we see what you're saying, but you should see what we're saying, and let's meet in the middle. Both sides are kind of pig-headed in that regard where they just can't see it the same way. And that's where conflict occurs. And that's why he's not at the NHL and they're not getting the help out of what was a first round pick.
I mean, you could definitely use a type of player like Ho-Sang, especially one that's still affordable, because any team it's a well-known secret when a team's against the cap like the Islanders are, having that young talent come up that's still on the $700,000 to $900,000 range could really help alleviate those issues. So do you think that the Islanders are deep enough prospect-wise to have players come up right now this year and help alleviate that cap crunch, or are they going to have to try to manipulate it a lot more than they have done so far?
That's a good question because, yes, they have good players that they could bring up and fill a role at the NHL level, right? Like we talked about Oliver Wahlstrom, we talked about Bellows, and Josh was saying that's three players that could arguably play in the top six, depending on who you ask, but at least on the third line, right? At minimum, they're a third line option for the Islanders, which is kind of what they could use. But are they going to give them the shot? That's where I'm not sure. Are they going to give them a chance to succeed? Now, outside of that, they got prospects like Ilya Sorokin, who's going to dazzle this year. Yeah. They have Noah Dobson, who's going to do the same this year, right? Like I see you rubbing your hands. I'm stoked for Ilya Sorokin. It's going to be incredible.
I mean, I'm excited too, and I'm a Rangers fan. So
the goalie battle between the Rangers and Islanders, Shesterkin and Sorokin, is going to be nuts.
It's going to bring out that rivalry so much more.
I can't wait. It's already peak, right? Or it seems like it's peak, right? They couldn't get any better from last year.
Yep.
And there's already a step above. And we don't have to rely on people beating each other up. Oh my God, what are the odds?
Wow.
So do they have the depth to help them this year? Yes, because they have a lot of good pieces already, like Lee, Barzal, Bailey. A lot of people won't say that, but I sure as hell will.
You're a believer.
Yes, I am a huge believer. Can Nick Leddy step back into a top four role and produce? Absolutely. And then they have the complementary pieces like with the guys we just mentioned to help them. Do they have that down the road, like in 2-3 years from now? No, not as it stands right now. In 2-3 years from now, that pipeline is not going to be very good for them. Unless some of these guys like a Bodie Wild, a Russian Lishkakov just absolutely turn up and become these top tier prospects that they need. But as it stands now, we don't know where they're going to be and what they're going to become.
What about a guy like Sebastian Aho, the Islanders' Sebastian Aho? Obviously, he gets a pay raise as well, and the Islanders have a hole in their back end if they move Johnny Boychuk and the questions with Andy Green. How much do you think that Aho is going to get a chance to play at the NHL level? Because we haven't seen him in a couple of years, but when he did play, though, he didn't really stand out doing anything bad. He looked solid to me. He was just a young guy, and he was stepping in for injuries or whatnot.
Very Michael Delcolian performance, right? Like full-on 0.0 WAR, just like good enough to be there, but not good enough to keep the spot necessarily. That's a shame. Like I like Michael Dalcol, but anyways, can Sebastian Aho fill that role? Yeah. If they want to save coin, like we talked about before, you put a guy like him in instead of Andy Green. Now, will they do that? Or are you going to put your third pair of Sebastian Aho and Noah Dobson? No way.
Sure.
Like Barry Trotz will grow hair to pull it out if that happens. Like he's just not going to do that. He's not going to put two guys on the bottom pair. But can you flip around your bottom two pairing on defense and have Aho, Mayfield, Leddy, Dobson? All right, now we're getting to somewhere where you're going, all right, that makes sense. You got some veteran presence. You got puck mover, not puck mover, left, right. Like, okay, that seems to work a little bit more. They are going to bring Andy Green back. Like the contract is signed. It's just sitting on Lou's desk. I mentioned on my podcast the other day. It's like there's a paperweight on it, and he just hasn't sent it into NHL office because the guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's playing games with everyone else, and they're 2 steps behind. But if they don't, right, if they just can't clear up the cap space, yes, I could see him playing in the NHL for the Islanders this year.
I mean, I hope they sign Andy Green back because as much as I think Leddy's going to have a bounce back year compared to what he's been, it's been a downward spiral for his career. But I think now he has to be better. Like it's not where they had good enough defense because the defense was so good that he didn't have to be that top 2-3 defenseman on the team. But now once Boychuk's traded with the young talent they have on the back end, he's really got to take that leadership role and be better. So I think he will be. But I like what you said, though, too, is you have that nice balance. Him playing with Dobson, as much as Boychuk with Dobson, to me, didn't really work that well because Boychuk was making a lot of mistakes as he's getting older, turnovers, all that stuff. You don't really want Dobson necessarily learning from those things. But at the same time, you can't have him with a rookie or a younger player. He has to be with a veteran to help him out a little bit.
Yeah, that's just it. So, like, there's going to be a lot of learning going on the Islanders' blue line, specifically with Noah Dobson. But Nick Leddy is going to be getting back into a role that he's kind of used to, right? A top 4 role and quarterbacking the power play. Like you saw his power play minutes decrease significantly over the last 2 years with the emergence of Devon Toews, who's now gone to the Colorado Avalanche, right? So like he's going to get that time back that he missed. He's not going to, like you said, be thrown back into a top pair role. He's going into a top 4 role, second line or second pair. Which should suit him more. Like the quality of competition he's going to face is going to be less than what he did previously. So they're not throwing him under the bus saying like, Nick, you got to, be the guy you were 4 years ago. No, you be the guy you are today. And we're going to give you a little bit of an easier time of it. Great. That's awesome.
So the Islanders are looking for a high caliber winger. And while there's free agents available, but like a guy like Hoffman, which they can't afford unless he took no, it's not. Honestly, they can't. It's not going to happen. No. They're gonna have to make a trade probably for a guy like a Laine or a Palmieri. Like you said, you look at the prospects and the piece on the Islanders. Which one would you think the Islanders be more willing to move to get a guy like that?
Kiefer Bellows. End. Period. Right. It's Kiefer Bellows that they move. We're good. All right. See you later, guys.
Now, do you think that's enough though?
No. Like if we're talking for a guy like Laine, absolutely not. And they're gonna have to make the money work too, right? Like Laine's on 675 for a year, and then what happens next year? Considering the Islanders have Anthony Beauvillier, Adam Pelech, who's going to get a significant raise, and Ilya Sorokin, right? Like all these guys have to be re-signed, and Casey Zizekas, assuming they want to keep him, which I would imagine they do. That's a lot of money. And then you got Patrik Laine, who if he pops in 40, he's going to be like, Lou, I want 10 mil. All right, let me get on the phone and find $10 million somewhere in a COVID economy.
Well, that's the problem. The COVID really put a damper on a lot of teams, but the Islanders are facing it the most. And I don't know. First of all, I don't think it makes any sense for them to acquire somebody like a Laine, especially this year with only 1 year left. If he now had signed long-term and it was more manageable and they could maybe negotiate a way to rearrange it so that in the future they're paying a little more, maybe, but 1 year makes no sense.
Palmieri, I think, makes more sense because he's not going to cost as much. And he's also, he has 1 year left on his deal too. This is it for him. So, I mean, is Bellows
from Long Island?
He's from Jersey, I think. I think
I know he's local.
Jersey. He's local. That'd be cool. But at the same time, though, is that a quote-unquote high caliber winger to play alongside Barzal? The biggest thing is getting someone that Barzal could pass to that's going to finish at a higher rate than what they have. We saw Eberle in the playoffs. As much as the chemistry they have is very, very strong, Eberle just failed to finish a lot of times. And sometimes it was like, just go sit down. Just go sit down on the bench and don't get off because that's the tough thing. So for you, though, who do you think the Islanders, a high caliber guy that they can go after that could make it work financially?
Oliver Wahlstrom. It's internal. It really is internal, right? Like, because you don't raise a bad point, and like might have to look elsewhere. And the reason they would do that is Lou Lamoriello loves his veterans, as does Barry Trotz. So then your immediate logic is, all right, they got to find someone outside. Well, where are they going to do that? Unless they move Andrew Ladd, who played a playoff game, to LTIR. That's going to be a hard sell already. Like, Lou can do it because he's done it before. But I don't know how he's going to, justify it this time around when the NHL office knows what he's up to.
Yep.
Everyone's expecting him to Robitaille and Andrew Ladd, and the NHLPA has to be going like, no, you can't just do that. So we'll see. But if he does that, that's $5.5 million gone, technically. And then if he can move Johnny Boychuk and let's say both those second-round picks that they got for Taves in the package leave, then you're looking at some more money. And that's definitely enough to sign Barzal and potentially someone else. But that's a lot of moves for a guy who's made 4 trades, right? 4.
Yeah.
Right. So like I can't see it happening. It's possible, of course, like anything is possible, right? But I would say it's going to have to be someone internal. It's probably going to be someone like Wahlstrom or Bellows that's going to come in and play on the wing that can hopefully pop in 20. Hopefully more even, but like at least 20. And it's kind of unfair because we're asking guys on their first NHL year to be like, all right, well, you need to be the change. Okay. No pressure.